Hello, and thanks for joining us on today's webinar, Lean Design for Process and Digital Transformation, Taking Complexity Out, Building Value In. My name is Nicole Jones, and I'm the Content Marketing Manager for Kintone, a low-code application building and process management platform. I'm excited to have our CEO, Dave Landa, share more on what it looks like in action. But first, Gregory North is here to share his best practices for making your team a lean, mean process building machine. Before we get to his presentation, just want to walk through some goals and overview. First up, maximizing value in your department and company by avoiding these 8 major sources of waste, followed by building lean processes at the rate of customers' needs. And lastly, driving process improvement with Kintone, a customizable workflow management platform. So really what this whole webinar is about is how the main driver of digital transformation is not always the latest and greatest technology, but the ability to listen to and solve each of the problems your users encounter using lean process design thinking. We all have the potential to tap into this power and become superheroes for our own teams and companies. To share more on this is Gregory North, president of consulting firm Globe North. Gregory has successfully led enterprise-level change for over 20 years, designing and deploying process-centric design thinking, digitally operating models in organizations ranging from microelectronics to business process outsourcing. Thanks for joining us, Gregory.
Thank you, Nicole, and thanks to Kintone for hosting this webinar. We're going to focus on Lean and how Lean applies to design of products and services, and specifically how you can take Lean and address opportunities for improvement in your business processes and prepare those processes for automation. We begin by looking at business process management, or BPM, and how BPM tools and capabilities are changing. In the beginning, they were ways to standardize work, put it into a system that allowed you to make sure that work was always done the same way, and introduce the capability of workflow, moving work from one step in a process to the next. But now, business process management is seen as the gateway to digital transformation, establishing a foundation on which, once processes are controlled, you can move to smartly automate them. As you can see from the examples here from organizations like Forrester and McKinsey, BPM provides a foundation for digital business and gives you an opportunity not simply to document a process, but to reinvent it, to reimagine the ways in which work can be done and create new value for your customers. But unfortunately, the design of processes and collectively how those processes work or don't work together results in a level of complexity that's not only frustrating for your employees, but for your customers. And it definitely limits the potential of your digital transformation efforts. Companies like KPMG and Gartner, who have studied this problem, find that complexity of the operating model, the ways in which your collective processes work together as a system, represent the #1 reason why transformation efforts fail. And when you're putting in place a digital business initiative, the lack of process maturity, the lack of understanding how processes really work, or the lack of standardization across your organization can result in 80% of transformation efforts not realizing their full potential. You will not receive the return on investment in automation unless you focus first on process. It's easy to understand that relationship between process and automation, because if we think about it, deciding what to automate is a process. Once you've made that determination, what you have circled and said, yep, we're going to focus on this, that thing is called a process. And then when you execute your automation program, the steps that you follow in order to go from a process that's not automated to one that is automated well, that program is a process too. So no matter which way you think of it, there's no question that process is on the front end of automation. And if you're going process, it's really important for you to think about lean. For decades now, beginning with Toyota in automotive manufacturing, moving outside of manufacturing into the world of services and products, lean has helped organizations think about how to improve their work through focusing on customers, thinking about the process that the organization, and always and relentlessly working to improve the value. Lean, when applied to design, begins with understanding core lean principles that shape what the expectation for designs need to be. First, lean focuses on customer value. Understanding that the end in mind is, what does the customer really need? What is that thing that when you're done, the customer must have? And when, and where, and how do they want to receive and use it? Working backwards from that customer output, lean requires building in a flow of work that moves from the inputs of your process to that value the customer is expecting, and only allows things in it that are most valuable to the customer, and screens out any sources of input or process variation that could result in defects, products or services that don't meet customers' requirements. Lean also requires respecting not only the customer and their ability to define their expectations for you, but also listening to the people who are closest to the process, understanding their ideas and concerns about how work is done. Take a look for a moment at this picture of an assembly line in a modern advanced manufacturing facility. The line is automated. Work moves around a track at a steady pace in a continuous flow. The workspaces are neat and well ordered, a principle that in Lean is referred to as 5S. Only the things that are necessary for an operator to do his or her work are there, and materials and equipment are always within easy reach, making it simple for an operator to do their job. And when they're finished, it moves effortlessly along to the next step in the process, workflow, which results in the end in a chain of value being created with a finished system that customers can use. In our world, often it's not an assembly line in manufacturing. It could be an office, a desktop, a phone that you're operating on or through. And the work product is not a machine you're assembling. It's a collection of information, ones and zeros, inputs from customers about what they need, outputs in terms of systems that capture that need and reflect it back in a service or product. But still, the same principles apply of thinking about the flow, of screening out sources of variation, of reducing defects, and focusing on the people involved in the process. The user experience. Ultimately, these lean principles are the foundation for smart design. What gets in the way of smart design and smart execution of process is waste. Anything that does not add value to the customer's experience, the customer's output, is waste. Maximizing the value of your process and eliminating or minimizing anything else is the objective of lean. So think of lean as a focus on waste reduction. And waste can be defined in many different ways. It could be failing to tap the full capacity or capability of your organization, including the insights your people have. It could be unnecessarily transporting or moving work around your office or across different offices in a virtual business or even in a global business that result in work literally moving around the office, but never moving out to where the customer needs it. It could be in waiting. We spend a lot of time waiting on the last step in a process to be completed before we can begin our work. It could be overproduction, making more than the customer needs, or overprocessing, putting more into any particular aspect of a product or service than a customer needs. Think about a word processor, for example, which has so many functions and features, and what percentage of those do we actually use in our daily work? And defects, taking the opportunity to reduce the potential for a quality issue or error and the need to go back and rework that. Anytime you rework it, anytime you go through the process twice, that's wasted effort. All of these collectively represent waste, and as you can see in this picture, there's no question that it's frustrating not only for the customer, but for the employee who's in the middle of all this waste trying to figure out how to make it work better, not only for the customer, but for them. Well, Lean suggests that if you begin with the customer's value in mind and create a value stream, a set of steps that are the absolute minimum required to go from the puzzle pieces on the left, the inputs to a process, to the purple puzzle piece on the right, the output that the customer requires, you'll have a lean process. It's really as simple as that. But too often we allow other things to impinge upon that, to create complexity, and that results in a great deal of time wasted, money wasted, and frustration for customers and employees. We all know what it's like when we take the perspective of the customer ourselves to be in a process that's not an easy one to experience. We've been in situations where, for example, we have a technical issue on a product and we call in for customer service. The first thing we're presented with is a system that asks us to enter our PIN number. And then we go into a queue and there's music, delay. Finally, a person answers the phone. But the first thing they say is, "Excuse me, I'd like to ask you to go on hold for a moment while we transfer you to someone else." Then you go on hold again, there's more music. And in the end, you get another person who the first thing they do when they answer the phone is say, "Would you mind entering your PIN number?" which is something you did 10 minutes ago when you first logged onto the system. Why is it that the people that design these processes can't see what that customer experience is like? To be fair, each individual person in the process, the first representative who answers the phone and the second one who receives the transfer, they're doing their job. They're doing it well. They're answering the question and they're moving along to the next step in the process. However, if you take the customer's point of view and look at this end to end, there's absolutely no question that what you're experiencing is a process that has a lot of non-value added activity, or NVA, in it. We still haven't, by the time we get to that second request for a PIN, even begun to address your technical problem, and we're already 10 minutes into the call. So that's the customer's journey through a process that we often experience. Now we need to turn that lens around and take that customer's outside-in perspective and apply it to our own world and think about how the customer experiences our services, our processes, not the way we see them from the inside of the company. If we do that, we're taking the first step towards understanding that process is what we do. That output on the right-hand side and that input that we begin a process with, and the minimum steps in the middle that define what you must do to always get that done, but not anything else that isn't required to get that done. This is process-centric thinking. So with a customer focus and process-centric thinking, we have the ability to design a business process, a service that is more lean. When you capture an existing process, the current state view, you often find that work ping-pongs between groups, and it's hard to figure out exactly what the order of operations is. It may vary. On one day, work goes this way, on another day, it goes that way. Or one particular employee thinks that it's always important to do this, but the other two say, no, we really don't do that all the time. And work is sometimes just stacked up in batches, and those batches wait until someone remembers to go pick them up off of someone else's desk or desktop and move them. The picture on the top left of workflow in this illustration shows the complexity that we often see in our workplaces. And my guess is, if you think about work in your organization, it's probably a lot more complex than just even that picture would suggest. So the first step in lean design for flow is to establish a flow line, a simple, straightforward picture like a stream flowing, a value stream. And that's that second illustration you see on the left, where now there's a specific order that work always flows in. And as it begins with step 1, it always goes to step 7. And there's no question about what happens in each one of those. So work is streamlined and it's standardized. But that's not enough. Lean goes further and asks us the question, do we really need steps 4, 5, 6, and 7? Does it have to go through that many different, for example, groups, departments, sites, or employees? Could we, in fact, eliminate non-value-added work and combine some steps? Could 7 and 6 collapse into one step, and 4, 5, and maybe even 3 collapse into another step. So now once you've done that, you have a few number of people in the process, few number of steps in the process, and you get a reduced, elegant flow that represents a much faster, much simpler, and probably much less error-prone operation. Clearly, you can see the difference between our first illustration and the last. We end up with something that's truly lean. We've mentioned several times already the importance of quality, of defect reduction. Error proofing is a key lean concept to help us see how we can get that quality up and defects down. The way error proofing works is at 3 levels. The first is increasing the awareness of error. For example, if there's a critical form or application used in a business process and spelling can create problems downstream, the first thing we might do is put a little note on the form on the screen that says, please check your spelling before you submit the application. But does that really prevent the error from moving forward? Maybe not. The next step is to reduce the potential for error. For example, as we've seen in many word processing programs, highlighting a spelling error in red so that it focuses the attention of the applicant on that error and asks them to go back and look at it and check it. But even then, it's possible they may decide to push enter and move on. So to truly preclude the occurrence of an error, to error-proof it, you could create a requirement that a form that still had that red highlighting could not be submitted without those errors being corrected or accepted first. That is true error proofing. The elimination or reduction of the potential for defects, basically designing quality in, designing defects out. So designing for flow and designing out defects are the 2 critical objectives of lean design. Now let's turn our attention to the relationship between process and automation. We're going to focus on 3 questions. First, how does automation differ from workflow management? Second, when do you redesign your process leveraging the lean principles we've talked about earlier in this webinar? And when do you automate? And what is this thing called robotic process automation we're hearing a lot about today? About business process management, and as we discussed at the top of this webinar, it really is an important foundation for all the work you would do in automation. If a process is not well defined, if how it's executed is not clear, if the business rules around it are not understood, it's awfully hard to automate it. Those are the actual requirements that you need to have in hand to do automation. And ultimately, business process management, which includes quantitative measurements and optimization approaches, in of itself is a capability which allows you to have, if well implemented, effective and efficient and more capable business processes. So whether you're doing automation at all, business process management is important, but to do automation well, business process management is critical. An aspect of most business process management applications is workflow. When work is completed at step 1, the work automatically moves to whatever step 2 is defined as in the process. And whether this is done through the automation of the work end-to-end or just automating it from one step to the next, benefit can be derived by eliminating the transfer and delay between those steps. What doesn't change in workflow is the actual execution of the steps themselves. So in the picture you see here, what's automated in workflow are the blue arrows. What still occurs in terms of manual work is what happens at each of those desks as each employee does his or her work. Robotic process automation differs from workflow in that it includes the concept of moving work automatically from one step to the next, but it actually automates out the work itself at each of those steps. Because software robots can perform many of the basic tasks that are done today in the workplace. And anytime you see work which is very repetitive, which always follows pretty straightforward rules and involves a great deal of manual effort, people that are constantly rekeying information in from one database to another, looking at information that's used to populate certain screens, which is always used to populate those certain screens. That's an excellent area to focus on when you're looking for opportunities to automate work. In a sense, you're taking this work that has to be done, but is lower in terms of requirements for decision making, where humans are involved in the chain to determine how to respond. And you're saying, if I can program rules for that, I can hand it to a software robot to get done. And these bots, which are configurable software, become part of your workforce, your digital workforce. A special category of bots are computer programs designed to simulate conversation with human users, with customers. In a chat box, you can type in a customer request or inquiry, and a chat bot can respond based upon business rules with answers that are based upon lookup tables of what the right responses are for those questions. So whether it's bots in the back office or chat bots in the front office in your customer service organization, more and more software is becoming part of the way you solve the challenge of how to deliver value to customers. And our workforce is becoming more digital. This requires us to start making some choices about the best approach to automation. How to leverage platforms we already have, for example, BPM and workflow, to get automation going today. How to leverage those tools together with capabilities like robotic process automation in concert to have a fast turn operation that provides continuous improvement in flow and defect reduction and automating out manual work. We're also presented with the choice of when to optimize or automate. And first, the answer might seem obvious, but there are situations where it makes sense to automate first when the scope is relatively narrow, and eliminating a few steps that are manual today, and through the power of automation, reducing the cost and improving the quality may make the most sense. When the scope is broader, however, it's critical to use the power of lean design to ensure a process that is as simple as possible, that continuously flows, and has the value that the customer needs. In either scenario, we're applying lean through either effective design of automation or the design of the end-to-end process. To sum up, complexity is the enemy and reducing it is the objective. It's critical to the success of digital transformation that we take the complexity of our operating models, of our business processes out before we automate them. The objective of lean is maximizing customer value and minimizing waste. And lean design simplifies the work that we do, ensuring it continuously flows, and improving the output of quality value to our customers each and every time. Whether we're using tools like business process management or robotic process automation or in concert together, there's no question process is at the front end of smart automation. At Globe North, we provide workshops designed to help you think about how to apply the power of lean in your organization. Whether it's taking the training we've done today and expanding on it with your product or service development teams through lean design training, whether it's taking the power of Kaizen lean workshops that look at a specific process and understand rapidly how to eliminate waste, maximize value, and redesign the process and deploy those changes in just a number of days as opposed to weeks or months. Or it's double-clicking out to see the entire operating model of your organization and think about how your processes work together. We at Globe North have solutions designed to help you take the next step on your process excellence journey. For more information, go to globenorth.com. Take the opportunity to request a free briefing to learn more how the power of lean can transform work in your organization. And thank you for your time and attention on the webinar today.
Thanks, Gregory. Now we're going to hand it over to Kintone CEO Dave Landa to show what this all looks like when you execute in Kintone.
Okay, great. Thank you, Nicole. Really appreciate it. And thank you, Gregory, for that great and actionable overview of lean. And thank you, everyone, for joining. Really appreciate you being on here today. So before I get started on talking about Kintone and giving you a demo of the Kintone software platform, I did want to go back quickly and highlight lean and agile on the software side and talk a little bit about Kintone and how that fits in. So without further ado, let me go ahead and jump into the presentation. So yeah, one quote that really stood out for me that Gregory highlighted at the outset of his talk was that Forrester quote here about agility-orientated BPM platforms are the foundation of a digital business. And, there's no doubt that's the case, and I totally agree with that. But I would argue that doesn't go quite far enough. I would say that agile business process platforms are not sufficient alone. That really what we need if we want to really execute on one of the core lean principles of optimizing the whole is having a platform that enables and supports agile business process, business data, and business teams management. And certainly those can interact with one another within a BPM solution, but I think to have those as a comprehensive focus so that they interact with one another and that you really have the ability to manage data, manage teams, and process in a application type solution, that's where you can really help optimize the whole, as we say. So another really core principle here, lean principle that Gregory highlighted throughout the talk was this notion of reducing complexity, of course, a core element. In other words, you think of it as seeking simplicity, right? And when we think about lean, where the lean principles originally were developed and implemented around manufacturing, at least when you think about software development, as of 2003, the concept of agile, and that term has been used to describe the principles and methodologies, all of which are really based or at least extremely influenced by those lean principles. They've been driving software development and with a focus on great flexibility and speed. Always the focus with agile is about simplicity, transparency, and speed of design and methods. And as we look at the actual sort of principle comparison between lean and agile, not surprisingly, since agile really came from lean, that the principles are very similar, starting with the core underpinning of the philosophies, with that being customer focus. And customer is not just your end user, right? It's every person or every group, individual who is in the value chain, who a process is being passed on to. So if you're receiving some information, you need to take some sort of action. You essentially are a customer. So every step in the process is a customer, and you want to optimize that to make the process and make the work as enjoyable and as easy and simple as possible. So that customer focus extends across the board. So when you look at some of the principles, eliminating waste on lean, sustainable development pace, so you're not wasting development effort that's not being immediately enabled and gone live, right? Building quality in, we're talking about agile, about welcoming changing requirements. So you need to have a platform that can quickly change as requirements change, right? You're modifying at the speed of business, and you need to have a software solution that can do that. Creating knowledge on the lean side, reflecting on a regular basis and adapting. Again, reviewing what's going on, generating that knowledge based on how the process is working, how the solution is working, and what's changing in the business, what's changing with individuals, how the team changing, well, how's the data changing, how's the process changing. All those things need to be reflected upon and adapted to stay in an optimal process. And then, things like, progress being measured by working software, not by the lines of code that's been built and maybe not gone live yet. It's all about the software that's out there and working. And then delivering fast, of course, is critical to Lean, an absolutely essential part of Agile, frequent delivery of software. You don't have to wait, and roll out the software every 12 months. The faster the better. It could be in minutes, hours, months, but much more frequent delivery. And then the idea in Lean of respecting people, absolutely. In Agile, it's about business people respecting developers, developers respecting business people, and them cooperating on a regular basis around the software development. The really interesting about Kintone, which we'll talk about, this low-code, no-code concept, is that business people, in some cases, actually become developers. So not only are they cooperating daily, they are one and the same person. So they are completely on board. You have business people who know their processes best actually building the application. Now you also have developers who are doing some higher level support, but that's the beauty, and that's one of the revolutionary aspects of these low-code platforms such as Kintone. And then ultimately it's about simplicity, trying to create the most simple interface, most simple process, so aligning Lean and Agile in that respect. And you're simplifying and optimizing your processes using Lean methodologies. With that, you need to have an agile software platform to enable the continuous improvement in that simplified process, to be able to implement that, to continually execute on that with your team and with the data that you're collecting, and manage it and analyze it, and then iterate on it. But you need simplicity on both ends of the spectrum there. Which brings us to Kintone. So as I mentioned, Kintone is a no-code, low-code application development and deploy cloud platform. And really, we do combine three core pillars. The process management is essential, but we have this ability to build applications with no code, low code, create the type of web forms or tables, a database application that anyone can create, and then layer the process management on top of that, and have strong tools for collaboration as well. Essential elements, we believe. And the overall goal has been to make teamwork better globally. Kintone itself was built and launched in 2011 by Saibozu, who's our parent company, based in Tokyo. They've been the leading collaboration software provider in Japan now for over 10 years, and they've been a public company since 2000. So we've been around for 20 years now. The Kintone platform has launched in the U.S. in 2014, so about 3 years now. And for the last 2 years here, we've already been on Gartner's Magic Quadrant as being a leading, what they refer to as a high productivity application platform as a service. So of course, kind of a tortured acronym, as Gartners want to do, HPAPAAS. So okay, without further ado, let me jump into Kintone now and show you what it looks like to take a process that some lean methodologies have been used to optimize, and then roll that into a solution in which you can actually execute and iterate and manage and get your team involved and collaborate around that, and have all your data in one place and be able to constantly adapt as your business changes. So instant identification of how the process needs to be changed to be optimized, and instant execution of that so that everyone in the team is instantly updated around what that process needs to be to keep it optimal. So with that, let me jump over then to the platform. And whoops, I don't want to be there. I want to go, excuse me. Okay, here we go. So I'm just going to show what this is. I'm going to log out for a second. So this is a cloud platform, as we mentioned. So individual users, admins, whomever, will log in to an account on the Kintone platform. You can customize the interface and what have you. And it takes you into a portal page. This is dynamically displayed based on the end user and what their permission controls, what data they're viewing, what information that they should have access to will be displayed here. And you'll see on the left, we have essentially a dashboard environment here where we've attached some charts and graphs that are being pulled in from applications that have been created already here on the left. And then up here on the right, we've got assigned to me. So this is process management here. And so in our platform, for individual users in which a process for a particular record could be an order, in this case, it's a planning checklist. Here's orders. When a process gets moved for a particular record or a particular order to a stage in which, in this case, I'm responsible for, I get a notification pushed to me on the desktop to my mobile, and it's placed in here persistently into this assigned to me until I move the process along. So when I'm here, I'll always see what I need to do. I can click through. You see there's a number 2 here. I'll click through into this view, and it's a list view, and it shows me the 2 elements, and these aren't the only ones. So if you look at, all of them, there's going to be however many records, in this case just 9, so demo database, we have 9, but the ones that are actually assigned to me that I click through to are these 2, in which I'm now responsible to move the process along. Before I get into too much detail on this, let me jump back out just to show the other elements of the platform. So got the assigned to me, like I just mentioned. Then we have spaces. So here's the collaboration element. So workspaces, it could be by company, it could be by department, by project. But these spaces can be private. Each one of these locks here indicates that these spaces are actually private, and only the members who have been added to these spaces will be able to view the details in them. So I can go into this tile co where I just was. I'll go into this space. I look in this space. Again, I have another dashboard here on the left that's displaying what's relevant chart that's been created. In this place, it's a pie graph and a pie chart. And this is actually the process management stages here that we're looking at. So we've got how many have been approved, the vendor stage, receive stage, design. These are different stages in the process that have been defined and now are being displayed here. You've got people who are members of this who can see this information and may be part of this process right here. You can have separate threads. It's just communications. So what is interesting here, we talked about the tile co being a process, and this is an ordering process in which this tile company sought out a lean process excellence consultant to review their order process and look to optimize it. And so in this case, sometimes you can go right into automating it. In other cases, you should definitely do the optimization process first before you put it into a system. Now, having said that, the beauty of something like Kintone is that you can constantly adapt as you identify a more optimal process. But let's have a quick look here in the thread. Inside this thread, we have, okay, hold on just one second. All right, sorry about that. So inside this thread, you'll see the lean process that's been pursued here, basically looking at, whiteboarding out what the different order types are, custom, sample, stock, small, what the process looks like, starting to identify some, maybe some overlap or some similarity, some questions in there, starting to think about what might be done to help optimize a process, maybe eliminate one of the processes altogether and combine it with another one to simplify it, maybe shorten the time frame, and then to look at, who are the people or groups that are part of these processes, who are essentially the customers in the value chain, right? Identifying those and where they land in the various different processes and how they kind of match up from a matrix standpoint. So once you have that laid out, you've identified some of the changes you want to make, that's where you can jump into Kintone and start creating the solution. And what we've done here is created an application, the order database application, based on that information. And we looked at it a little bit already, but more in depth, you have this look here which is the spreadsheet view of all the different records or the different orders that are in. And if you click into any one of these, you'll go into, it's called the detailed record view. It shows you all the different spaces, all the different fields of data here. And a few elements, what we talked about. So over here, these buttons, these are the process management that's been created for this. And so you can drop the process, to the next stage, the vendor stage from, I believe we're in the design stage, and I can identify different individuals to receive this. If I want to select a particular assignee, I could also be automatically set, so, I wouldn't select any. It would just automatically go to the next person who's already been defined as such. You can have a look here. Yeah, so we're in the design stage now. You can look at the history. So it came in, it moved at one point, the receive stage first, and then moved to the design stage. And then we can move it along to the vendor stage. Maybe I'll go ahead. I'll keep myself as the assignee. I'll move to the vendor stage. All right. Whoops. Let me do that again. Yeah, let's move to the design stage. Confirm that. It's going to me. So now it's on to the warehouse. It's in the vendor stage now. I can look at the history. The history is there. Now it shows each step in the process. Over here, you've got these collaboration elements, commenting, and you can actually look at the history as well by just toggling between that. You can see everything that's been updated here. So if you need an audit trail around your records, it's all right there. And if you have a quick look at, the editable version, you can see we've got this industry elements here. You've got the different order types that can be selected. You have down here account owner and vendor. You have different vendors here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you have the different stages in the process and the different phases. And you can see down here, these are fields here, these gray fields. And these are permission-based. So me as Dave, I can go ahead and enter some of this information here. But I can't enter stuff for Travis or Jana. I have been given control for these, but again, it's all about permissions for who's be able to see what and do what at any given time. So I know we're running a little bit short on time, but let me go ahead and show you what it looks like in the back end so you understand this idea of the low code, no code, and how this has been created. So if you go into the form of that application, here it is. So this is it. We've got 28 different fields of data that you can just pull over, and you can move stuff. Maybe the industry, maybe I should put that down here. Maybe I should add something in addition to transport. Maybe we'll go retail. Save that. So that's been saved now. Maybe I've got a new vendor now. So I want to add a new vendor to the process. Maybe it's, I don't know, Johnson. So I save that there. Make those types of changes, and I can even pull in, let's say I need another attachment field over here. So maybe it's, maybe it's a contract or something. So I'll save that. So I just made 3 quick changes kind of to the elements here. I saved this form, and so now I've created now a production, excuse me, not a production yet, a development stage. So this is basically pre-live right now, but in this scenario, it is so easy to go live. If we're good with this update, we just click on Update App. And this application is now live with those new changes. So all those changes have been put in place. So if I go in here now and I look at this particular one, you'll see I've got the design document in here now, right? Which I just added, the contract, which I just added. In the industry, I just added retail, right? I go down here, new vendor, the new vendor Johnson, it's all in place, right? So as easy as that to change certain elements. Now the other piece is here, right? We're looking at the process. So in the back end, in the admin, what you'll see is here, we've got other app settings. We have permissions. So like I was mentioning before, you could set permissions, who can view what. You'll see this is the field-based permissions. So depending on the different fields of data you can select a field of data in your records and determine who can view and who can edit. No one can edit this one, but over here, Jana can edit, everyone can view. So those types of capabilities are built in, very simple, just configuration. And then we've got notifications as well. We can do reminder notifications revolving around a date, a week before, a month before, 60 days before something needs to be done. A notification can be pushed off to the individual who's responsible. We can also have notifications triggered from when there's a change in a particular field. Maybe when there's a particular vendor or a particular client is selected, maybe a notification needs to go to the salesperson who's responsible for that group, something along that nature. And then here's the process management. So obviously very critical to what we're talking about today. So in Kintone, process management is as again simple as just configuring. You've created these stages. If you've identified a process where maybe I want to add a new stage in here, maybe there's a testing stage I need to add. So I just add in there, simple as that. So now I've got a new status setting, and I go down to my actual workflow here, and where was I? Warehouse and delivery. So, I look at warehouse, so maybe I'm going to add a new step below warehouse before delivery, and I'll call this one is testing, right? This I'll have moved to testing. Right? This one will move to delivery stage. So I've added a new testing step. I need to figure out who should be testing this. And this could be a group. It could be an individual. It could be a department. So let's see. Maybe I have production should do the testing part. Maybe I also want to get one individual. Maybe I should have a look at that as well. Now you can also add affiliated departments if you'd like. You can also use fields to be more defined on that. But let's say here, let's move to, so this should change to move to testing stage, right? This is move to delivery stage. And so that's it. All I need to do then again is save. So I've now updated the process in the test environment. And if you wanted to look at that, we've got this preview, so you can actually go through and test it out. But again, the update is as simple as clicking Update App, right? Boom. And we're now live and go back into this record, have a quick look. We have warehouse stage, right? I'm going to go ahead and confirm since I'm in these. So now I have a testing stage. You see, it just came up here. I can click on testing stage. Boom. So now it's moved to the delivery stage. So now you can see that stage has already been entered in. It's been created. It's as fast and as simple as that. So that's about it. I know we're running late. A lot of other elements here, but just to give you an idea again of how you can execute and implement a lean process optimization project can be kind of very quickly, almost instantly, put into a software platform that you can execute, manage, and continually optimize on. And that's where Kintone comes in. So with that, I'll turn it back to Nicole, and wanted to thank everyone, and thank you, Nicole.
Thanks, Dave, and thanks, Gregory, and to everyone else who's joined us today. If you have any other questions, you can reach out to me. I'm at nicole@kintone.com. And to learn more about Gregory North and his services, visit globenorth.com. I encourage you all to schedule a free consultation with a Kintone team member so we can create a custom demo for your specific needs. Just visit the link on the slide. And with all this information fresh on your mind, it's the perfect time to sign up for a free 30-day Kintone trial to practice building apps and workflows. Just visit kintone.com/trial. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.